the siren went, it meant time to go. Wherever we were, whatever we were doing, we just stopped. We'd be up in the air in less than 2 minutes.
You never knew what to expect.
Well, I've got with me Basil O Connell Jones today. For a while, I've been wanting to talk to somebody about how they've coped with injury, whether physical or mental. And Basil falls right into that category. He's got a terrific story to tell about his time in the RLI, but also about how he dealt with the aftermath of being badly wounded. So, Basil, thank you for your time. And
bless you, Hannes. Thank you.
Really nice to have you. And Basil, just I think kick off with a little bit about your early life and how you ended up in the Commandos.
So I'm born in Zambia, Hannes, in Kitwe. My folks were, my dad was mining there. My mom was a nursing sister. So I junior schooled there in Zambia, and then I went to boarding school to Falcon College. You'll be familiar with that, Falcon College.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, when I look back, you know, in retrospect, it was the most incredible time of history, and for us to grow up in that federation, Rhodesia, non-Rhodesia, Nyasaland. So yeah, we had a great childhood, man. Really had an amazing childhood, and I went to the best school. You know, I mean, scholastically, I mean, I wasn't the best student in the world. Yeah, Falcon, you know, it was a good school and it's a magic school, but for me, it wasn't such a good fit at that time in my life, and I was a late starter, Hannes. But I went from Falcon after my A-level flunk out to Commercial Careers College. To me, Hannes, it was the beginning of a bit of a downward slope for me, because you know, it's quite amazing to imagine that my folks would actually put me in it was a place called Tok H, one of those Tok H's in Fifth Avenue, Baines Avenue, Fifth and Baines. And that's where I was. And I mean, I was 16 years old. And I've got a place to myself, and commercial careers is just down the road. If I went to school, that's fine. If I don't, you don't. Nobody cares. And so, you know, life just took its own draw. A whole bunch of kids were there, and a girl was there with me that I got to know very well, and we became very friendly. She was from a Bindura farm kind of setup, and so I didn't do much studying. That's that, Hannes, and I started smoking Zoll, and I got into a lot of trouble. Yeah, so I was busted by the. I've got 3 convictions on it for drugs and for theft. 2 for drugs and 1 for theft. And you know, I wasn't a thief. You know, I mean, just going to help myself to a pack of smokes every single day. At night, at about 11 o'clock at night, I go from my girlfriend's flat, come to a place, and there was a garage there, and I'd help myself to you know, you remember those things you put some money in, and you could just grab a pack of cigarettes that drop down, and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But this particular machine, I could prise it open and just grab a packet. So I did it every single day. So eventually, you know, they kind of like must have switched on. I mean, I was a kid, you know, and this time I'm going, and I grab my cigarettes, and suddenly lights and FB cars and dogs, and I'm arrested, bro, and I'm in turmoil, you know, and I'm in court the next day, and I must argue my case, and I said, no, well, look, okay, yes, and then straight into probation officer that I had to see every week without fail. So that was the beginning of it. And then but I was also smoking Zoll, and I was more interested in playing pinball and mini soccer than studying, that's for sure. And I said the big draw to play pinball and mini soccer on First Street there. Patrick was doing his own thing. Rob Hutchings was another great friend of mine, and we're both there at Commercial Careers together. What happened is my folks were coming to from Zambia to Harare, and then they'd go overseas every year. They'd go for a holiday and stuff like that, and we'd normally go with them. But now I'm at college. The day they came from Zambia to see me, I'm in jail. I spent the whole weekend in jail, and I forgot that my folks were coming. So, look, man, my old man was, you know, he was an ordinary Rhodesian boxer, and he had a right jab that could really sort you out. I'm telling you right now, and he knocked out Jimmy Tawil in his heyday, and that's who he was. And he went to school in Plumtree, and so his whole story was that school. But when I came out from the cells in Harare Central, I don't know if you know anything about the cells in Harare Central, but they're down. It's like a dungeon. You come up, and and I looked up, and I saw my old man. And my old man, he wasn't happy with me, man. I tell you, and I'm thinking, no, and now I'm in trouble. I'm in serious trouble, because I didn't know that he was there, because he had never found out about this. Nobody knew about the cigarettes and the fact that I'm on probation. No, that's a criminal record of the first one I got, and nobody knew about that, not my family anyway. So my old man, he's really works with me. So I said, no. And he says, no, Basil, you must come for, and I grew my hair, because you just had to grow your hair as long as you can in the 70s. So I had all this long hair. My dad took me to, I've got to go to a court. I've got to appear in court. So he cuts all my hair off, and I'm just, I was so depressed about that. And but he was getting physical with me, and I knew he was getting serious. We went straight to the courtroom, and I told my folks, I said, listen, I'm telling you, I was planted, and it's a truth. It is a truth, planted, Hannes. I was smoking a wall, and I was a scabanga. I was drawling. I was in a lorry. I don't know if you know, Hannes, there was the drug squad is so switched on in those days in the 70s, and a criminal prevention unit, and yeah, these oaks were really on it, you know, and especially and we all lived in the pinboard halls, and they knew what we looked like, and they knew who to get. So my two friends were busted, and they're in jail, and so I knew that I was going to get busted. That I emptied my pockets of every bit of every particle, every pip, everything. So I walked into the Alfie straight away. The cops grabbed me, took me down to the station, and then they searched my clothing, and they found nothing, but then they came and said, no, we found some particles. So I said, no, you're talking nonsense, because I'm telling you, I know it was it, and then so now in the courtroom, the guy says, the judge says to me, he says, what happened there? And I said, no, what happened is I was picked up, and I was planted. This guy set me up, and they had a guy in there, and he said, no, we didn't set him up. And then they told him, no, you sit here. Then they raided another guy. They said, you come in. They sent that other guy out. And their stories didn't tie up, because in fact I was planted, and so they let me go. And my folks were very happy, and they thought, no, Basil's not smoking at all. He's my boy, and you know that and that. It was 6 weeks later, Hannes. I got busted properly. I was at some nightclub in Harare, and we went for a zol outside, and I'd been drawing all day, and we were smoking, and next thing these guys came, and a guy called an Aussie Cohen, I don't know, a real savage of a policeman, you know, he was a stick, and he'd come and work our guys over, and he busted us in the act. So me, a Portuguese guy, and somebody else put us in the back of a van with dogs barking but in the cage, you know, and we're in trouble. And there's no ways I'm getting out of that. I mean, we're caught red-handed. Can you believe it? That weekend, my folks come back from overseas, and where am I? In Turkey again. Left, man. It was uncanny, to be honest. So I said, yeah, no, look, you know, let's go through it. I got a suspended sentence, 5 years suspended sentence. They wanted me to go to reform school, and my mom said, no, please, I'm a nurse. Let me take him back to Zambia, and we'll make sure everything's good with him. And he's my boy. And my dad said, yeah, no, look, I'll make sure he's under control. And so we leave the courtroom. As we leave the courtroom, Hannes, the cop standing there, and he says, Mr. Connell Jones. So my dad and I both respond to him, and he says, yes. And he said, no, your son. And then they said, they had me on a charge for causing malicious damage to property, which Hannes, you can't believe it, but it's not true. But anyway, at the place I was staying at the guest house, they had just built a wall that day, and it was breeze blocks, and with these breeze blocks you can see through. So now I'm goofed up a bit, and I lean against the wall, and I feel it's giving away, you know. So I mean, I don't know, it's brand new, it's just been brought. So I ran around to try and stop it from falling, but of course it just fell straight through me, and then I just bolted because I'm in trouble. So, and it wasn't at the place where I was not at Tokach, but it was at another guest house. It was some friend of mine, and anyway, I thought I ran away, went to Tokach, and I thought it was got over. But anyway, so they busted me for that. So they said, so my dad said, how much is it to fix it? So the guy gave him a figure. No, my man just paid him it. He said, okay. So in the car, straight to Zambia, through Chirundu. And I'm just thinking, and outside it's boiling hot because it's a valley and all that. And but inside it's freezing cold, and there's attitude, and there's all kinds of stuff happening. And you know, I get to Zambia. You know, in Rhodesia, the police force was so switched on and so on it with drugs, but in Zambia, you know, it had just changed from colonial rule. It was no longer pound shillings and pence. It was kwacha and ngwe. It was a wonderful time, but you know, the law and order like that was not. And so, as far as getting hold of drugs, I was getting LSD sent from UK. I was sending grass to friends of mine in UK, to Harare. You know, it was a crazy time, and you know, and at that time I looked at the mirror, and we're all taking a lot of speed tablets, and I looked at myself at the mirror, and I thought, yeah, I'm in bad shape. I'm 18 years old, bro. And I said, no, I must. So I joined a rugby club, and I just thought, okay, let's go and play rugby. And I just puked my guts out. Played for the third team, first game, second team, second game, and first team, third game. And that was it. And then I had the most amazing year and a half playing rugby, and just didn't smoke Zol on that day, because I mean, you can't. And then I started working. I got a job working with a quantity surveyor in Zambia, and then he said, Basil, why don't you go over to Crawley College of Technology and study and get this, become a quantity surveyor, you know? So I said, yeah, no, sounds okay. I just been injured. I had my cruciate ligaments broken. So I was going for operation overseas anyway. So I said, no, I'll do that. So after operation, I was in plaster, of course, and whatever, rehab, and then doing this College of Technology for about 3 months. And then my friends came, and they came with big suitcases full of Zol, and walked straight through Heathrow. In those days, Hannes, 74, 73, 74, no dogs, nothing like that. And this guy walked through. If they opened his suitcase, it was just a sealed packet of Zol, you know. And so I left college, and I started. I started with for a year, just dealing with some guys and making some money, lots of money, and sometimes no money, but always a terrible police were always on us and different things, and it was eventually. I'll cut a long story short, Hannes, because it's a year of my life that was up and down and going to Europe, and my sister is living in London as well, and she knows the story, and she's saying, "Oh, Basil, you are in such an idiot. You're making such a stuff up of your life, you know." My friends came, and the biggest deal. We managed to sell all that, put a lot of money in my pocket, bought a ticket, and me and a mate of mine.
So you came back to Salisbury.
Yeah, we flew out of London, and I just thought, I'll never ever go back. I don't want. It was like I thought I'd left all my problems behind me. And my folks met me. My dad was mining at Shamrock at that time, and my dad said to me, he said, "Baz, what do you think you're going to do with your life now?" And I said, "I'm not too sure, Dad." You know? And then at that time, there's some articles of the RLI and recruitment and stuff like that. So I thought, wow, that sounds great, because I could see that I was playing volleyball, and it looked like a great life. You know? And the very fact that the war was going on it didn't cross my mind, Hannes, at that time. But I just thought, well, that's good. And also they often, but Dad said, "Why don't you go on the Osby's course?" You know. And so the first thing I did, I went on Osby's, Hannes, and I went there, and from Cranbourne straight to the Osby's. I was there for a week, long hair, beads. I mean, a civilian, proper, with my police convictions that, of course, these guys knew about, and they had all these. And now I'm asking to become like an officer, you see. So I go through all the tricks, and you know, and the stuff, and the shooting and all that. And I was okay on the physical side, you know. I mean, but they I remember General Hickman. He said to me, he said, "You fail." I said, "Okay." But there was a captain, I don't remember his name, and he'd watched me the whole week, and watched me handling the physical side and all that, and he said to me, Come with me. Come, sit down. Shut the door. Shut the door. So I said, why don't you join the RLI? And he asked me a couple of questions, and I said, yeah, sounds good. Sounds great. He said, and he signed me on right then and there in his office. 3 years, regular soldier. So from there, I went straight to Cranbourne Barracks, with my long hair and my beads and everything else like that, and my jeans and my tackies, and to the boom. I got a taxi dropped me off there, and then I remember the guy that at the boom, Hannes, at Cranbourne Barracks. He looked at me and he said, "What do you want here?" I said, "No, I've come to join the army." He looked at me. He said, "Hey, you don't know what you're doing." And I said, "Look, you know, I've joined up." He said, "Hey, you're in trouble, bro." And he opened the boom, and the first thing I realized that nobody walked. Everybody's running, you know, running in squads, running in bow, you know. But you know, and I was asking the guys, okay, where's train troop? Okay, there, okay. And I got to train troop, and I'm tired, and I'm sitting. I sit down on the step of training troop. My suitcase is there, and I take out a Texan cigarette, and I'm just about to light it up, and I just feel these hands on my shoulders. Yeah. And these guys, I've never heard language like that in my life before. I've never, you know, it was incredulous, you know. And I said, "Hey, no, hold on, guys, hold on. I volunteered to join the army. I mean, Hey, no, they really got wound up. They said, you. And they pushed me into Mr. Rose's office. Oh, you know, that day, that Hannes, I will never forget. It's etched in my brain. I don't know who got the bigger fry. Almost, you know, when he saw me coming into his office, he couldn't speak. He was blustering. He couldn't believe that somebody could have the audacity to come into my office.
Oh, hair and beads.
Yeah, beads, a long hair, like that, jeans. Pace stick. He's got me under the chin, standing to attention, and I don't know what's going on. He calls the guy next door, cut all his hair off, gone. Off to the quartermaster, get a uniform, get him sorted out, blah blah blah. All the stuff they stick in a sausage bag. I remember, you know, I came out and I thought, yes, now I've done some stupid things, but yeah, this is probably the most stupid thing I've ever done in my life. And I look in my mirror and I can see no hair. Nothing fits me. No clobber fits. Is it, you know? But 148's coming in, and next thing, all the guys that come, they dinner started. You know, I mean, Nancy Miles was one of the instructors. Nigel Turan was our lieutenant. He was in Commando initially before he went to SAS, before he was killed. Yeah. So Trevor Hudson was my corporal, but he gave us a torrid time. And I mean, he really revved us, Hannes. I you know, because it was such a large intake. I think 148 was at that stage the largest, and then 149, 150, then whatever. But before that, the commandos were small. So Trevor was there, and Ronnie Travers was there, I remember, and they were instructing us. Sergeant Garish was there. A guy called Miller was there. But major guys, you know. But really, they were men's men and soldiers, you know. But me, I was becoming a soldier, but they were going to work me over, and Trevor pushed us so hard, and yeah, I just thought at times that some guys were bailing out, but I thought, no, I'm gonna go through this. And I didn't know that he was preparing us for what was ahead of us. We had no idea. I had no idea. I was properly a civilian. But eventually, we just ran all the assault courses and the rifle ranges and the 120-mile route march and the survival course. We did all. And then 148 passed out on this Friday. On the Monday, we're in the trucks off the bush, and the first bush trip was Mount Darwin. Okay,
and yeah. Then, a little bit about your time, and then how you got wounded.
I mean, I really enjoyed the army, and I really, but we were fire force all the time, and it was, to me, fire force was such a, you know, when the Hooters went, it was trouble, because we knew we were in trouble, and we're going into a situation we didn't know, but then we were going to be briefed and stuff like that. My first contact that I had was we've been based in Chipinga as fire force, and there was a call out, and we went and we followed tracks maybe most of the morning, and went through and the guys kept on saying, we're close. And we went through a village, straight through this village. And I said to the gogo, I said, Makandanga Arakopi. And she said, hey, come. And she took me by the wrist. And she said, listen, they were just here. Keep going. You're gonna catch it. And so these trackers, you know, they were watching all the tracks, and I was behind them because I was a machine gunner at that time. And it was maybe 10 minutes later we went into a village and we made a contact. And it was my first contact. I had the MAG gun, and we saw a couple of gooks in there, and we just started firing, and the whole place, I mean, tracer bullets were just setting the huts on fire, and I was standing up just blowing away. And it was a bit bizarre to me, and then it was over. The main group, unfortunately, had gone through the village, and they were at this tree. And when they heard the contact, the real contact, was just a couple of guys in the village, for what reason, I'm not what they're doing, but they legged it to Mozambique, and we followed them, and then we're told, you can't follow, you can't chase into Mozambique. And I didn't think anything of it, you know. I thought, no, well, look, you know, it was a good contact, and it was a good initiation. And now Dr. Ron, I remember he said to me, he said, you know, I heard about the contact, and the guy spoke well of you, and I said, look, I don't know, you know. And he said, yeah, no, you've done well, Baz. And that was it. That was it. Now I'm going to jump forward.
Yeah, what happened on the day you were hurt, Baz?
1977. So that this is the 1977, 1st of February. It is the battalion's birthday, and RLR's birthday. And so what was happening was there was a skeleton fire force operating in Grand Reef, just a few of us, and we were getting called out every single day. So on the day that I was pulled, we'd been put the Huta went, and we flew across the Matoi road, across the Mururasapi road, and we stopped. And Andy Samuels briefed us that we was going into a camp of about 80 gooks, and I think it was one commando or three commando were going to para jump, and they go to stop groups, and we're gonna go up and initiate the contact. And so while we were walking up, and it's 1st of February, and it's been raining, and it's the bush is thick, and very, very rocky, very kind of terrain was tough. And the KCOR commando said, "Where are you guys? We cannot see you." And Trevor said to him where we were, and it said, "Can you throw a smoke grenade so we can see where you are?" So Trevor spoke to me and said, "Throw a smoke grenade." So I threw a smoke grenade, and then the guy said, "Okay, we've got you. Just turn around and go up a little this way." And we were stop 1, stop 2, stop 3 were but to the left of us. And as we were going up this mountain, I heard this burst of automatic fire, and we kind of like, but it was just one burst, and then there was a cave that had just appeared. So Richard, Brett, and myself went into this cave, and there was a big pot of nyama and salsa now we know we're in trouble because they've been feeding these gooks. And just then, Stu Hudson runs across. And I think Richard nearly pulled him because he was jumpy. And I said, no, it's Stewie. And you could see his blonde hair. And so Stewie runs across to tell Trevor, says, listen, I think guys, I think he said Guy McKenzie's been killed. And so we came out of this cave and we regrouped and Trevor said, look, guys down. We don't know where these guys are. So I think he said, you and Richard go this way. We're going to go this way. We try and flush these guys out. And as I stood up to go, the guy shot me straight through the head. The bullet went into the top of my head here, and came out the back. It went through both hemispheres of my brain. And I'll tell you what Richard Brett tells me, because Richard Brett is in here. He is in Durban, and he's a great friend of mine. And he just said, Basil, what happened was, because I asked him what happened. I mean, you know, he said, Basil, you know, when we stood up, this guy pulled you, and your brain, you left your head, and it came over my face, and all, you know, and then he hit the deck, and he just said, Basil's dead. There's no way he's going to survive that. Shot through the head like that. And I hit the ground, Hannes. All I could see was my rifle line from him. I could hear the gunfire, shouting, screaming, commotion. I was in so much pain. I was in agony. It was unbearable, the pain I was in, and I knew I was dying. And you know, Hannes, it was something that I thought about a lot, you know, because we lived with it, you know. It was so like that, you know. And I remember every time we'd fly into these situations, the guys would never talk, you know. I wouldn't talk, that's for sure. And each one would be lost in his own world, in his own thoughts, and I'd be looking over the tops of the trees and thinking, you know, what happens if I get shot, you know? And then I wondered, well, it depends where you get shot, you know, I guess, you know. And there was your vitals, and then you're in trouble. And I think, what happens if you get killed? Oh, and I just couldn't go there. It was too close. And now I've been shot, and I know I'm dying. I'm not breathing, and my heart's not beating, and I'm just thinking, you know, the question that came to me for the first time, Hannes, this is war. It wasn't a question, it was just the reality. This is war. The pain, the agony, the torture of war, what really war is. And because, you know, before we had some good contact and not very unscathed, you know, many times, but this particular time, now the reality, this is the war, this is war. And I'm just, I know I'm dying, and I don't want to if I let my head fall into my arm, I'm gone. And I couldn't hold out for longer than 2 or 3 minutes. And I let my head fall into my arm. And now, this is 1977, 1st of February. And now what happens is I feel my spirit coming out of my body. I died. My spirit came out of my body. My arms are my arms, my head out of my head, and my legs are my legs, my body out of my body. And I went through a tunnel, and I saw my life, everything I'd done, everything, my school days, everything in a moment of time. And And came out of that, and it was the most beautiful, peaceful time, and a beautiful, peaceful feeling. And I just thought, wow. And I've got no religious background, Hannes. I'm thinking, wow, this is wonderful, because death is like, it's the beginning. It's no more drama. There's no more hassle. There's no more strife. And I don't know. You see, I'm told the contact went on for 25 minutes or 27 minutes exactly, before they could actually flush them out and kill them, and all the stop groups do whatever they did. I don't know. But at some time, I was turned around and I saw my body lying on the ground. And as I saw my body lying on the ground, I had no say in this matter. I was back in. And when I re-entered my body was the same time as the contact was over. The guys turned me over, and they could see that there's a spark of life. And they said, hey, listen, and the first communicator went back to Grand Reef was Basil O Connell Jones, Guy McKenzie, both there. And then the communique was changed to say, Connell Jones is alive, but just. You know that they carried me down in a. Now I'm just told this, Hannes. So I'm carried down in a bivvy, and because it was tough. There's no chopper could never ever land where we were, and they wanted to Kazakh me. I've just found out, I've always wanted to know who was the chopper pilot that Kazakh me, because it wasn't one of the guys that was involved in the contact. I knew that. And it just turns out that it was a guy called Mike Borland. What a legend of a guy. And I've just read about him. And so he's listening to the contact on the radio. He said, I'm close. I'll come fetch him. They came, because when I loaded into the chopper, I regained consciousness, because I lost my consciousness for when I came back to my body. I was gone, fortunately. And then I regained consciousness for a few moments, and I thought to myself, I know I'm being casualty evacuated. I'm very familiar with this procedure. I know I've been shot, but just now I wasn't here. And I could see the blades spitting above my head, and the guys were talking, and they put me in the chopper. And the chopper took me to Matari, to the hospital there. They were, I don't know whether they did a transfusion there or not. I don't know. And there's 2 doctors there. I think Kit Kat Costumes was one of the doctors. And somebody said, this guy is, just put him in the morgue, because no way. There's no guys. He's not going to survive this. And Mike Borland, bless his heart, man. Now a medic was there. He started talking and say, but can't we stabilize them? Can't we try and put blood in them? And Mike Borland got so fed up. He just said, "Come, I'm taking him." And he took us not to Grand Reef, but to another airstrip that I don't even know. It's very close, and where a medic was there, and he gave me. They couldn't give me morphine because of head wounds, but they gave me more. What do you call that thing? Valium. shots of Valium to calm me down, because apparently I was losing my mind, and the pilot was not happy, and that kind of shocked me out, and then they flew me from there to New Serum, a fixed wing New Serum chopper to Andy Fleming, and my folks had been told that I would be shot, and they were at the Three Monkeys Inn. Obviously, they went straight through, and they heard that it was bad, and my mom said to my dad, and you know, I saw my folks, I saw my mom, I buried my mom just 2 months ago. My mom went into Octoloni's X-ray room where he was doing whatever he was doing, and he said, "Listen, your son will never walk again. He'll never talk again. His speech section's gone, motor section's gone, and we think he's blind or he's going to be impaired. And other than that, you know, he couldn't tell because." And my mom said, "Operate," and he said, "Okay." So the operation went on for 8 hours, I'm told. I nearly bled out in the operating table because it was just a piece of bone in my skull that was stopping all the from me actually bleeding out. So when that piece of bone was removed, I bled badly, but having all the blood involved, and that was all done. The next thing I remember, I came around in ICU, and my dad was there, and everything I had was bandaged up. I was bopped, I was messed up, and I looked at my dad, and I said these words, and then those were the last words I spoke. I said to Dad, "My dad, where's Guy McKenzie?" And he said, "He's dead, my boy." And I knew that. And I just wanted to be sure that everything's good. And then I couldn't speak again. I never spoke for months. I was in Andrew Plain for about a month, and nightmares and drama. And then from there, St. Giles. I was in St. Giles for about a year, learning to speak again, read again, write again, everything. Doing physiotherapy, hydrotherapy, occupational therapy, everything. But here's the kicker, Hannah. Here's the kicker. My mother was a very, very clever woman, and she heard a story from some trippy who wasn't even there, that I walked to the helicopter. Can you believe it? But she chose to believe that story. And she's never lied to me about medical stuff, ever. If she said, like, I got meningitis once into the Basil, you get a lumbar puncture coming, and it's going to hurt, son. And it hurts. But that's where she was. And so when she said, "You will walk again," I couldn't speak to her. And I said, "Okay, no problem, I'll walk." I didn't know that it would take me a year to actually just stand on my legs, with 2 plaster casts behind my legs, and people balancing me. And
so after a year in St. Giles, you went to Tsanga Lodge. Basil, just tell us a bit about that.
Before us, not straight to Tsanga Lodge. Hannes, I went to the Three Monkeys, and my folks had that place. And I'm telling you now, that was the best form of therapy I could ever have had, because of the fact that, you know, if I went to my folks' house somewhere in Bardale somewhere, you know, I would have got lost, and I would have been a hermit, and I don't know what, you know, really. because, I mean, I was obviously a bit depressed, but depression wasn't something you talked about, it was something you got over it in those days anyway.
You were in the pub, were you? So there were people coming and going,
so
and lots of conversation.
Exactly. So I come out, my mom said, "Hey, come for a beer." I said, "Okay," and I'm a bit what is the word? I'm paralyzed. I'm not. I can walk. I've got brain damage, so the brain doesn't send the messages it should slowly to my limbs to go. So I can't. When I walk, I've got to think about very carefully every step I take. So it takes a lot, and walking, talking, all that. So now I'm going into a pub, and now the guys are engaging me, and I'm just thinking, and I'm really grateful for it, because they wouldn't treat me like you've got some kind of disease, or they just said, "Hey man, how's it, man? Hey, tell us what happened." And so everybody would ask me, what happened, and everybody, it didn't matter who I spoke to. I'd always tell people, the doctor, the nurse, my mom, my dad, my sister, everybody that I met, I would tell them that I died. I tell them that I was involved in the contact, and then I was shot through the head, and that I died. Because and I knew that it was true. I tried to for months, Hannes. I thought, no, I'm just imagining this, because and then I'd go through it right from when the Hutu went, right through to the Andy Samuel briefing us about the situation at the Gooks, right through to the camp where Richard and I went, and up to when I was pulled, and I thought, no, this is so clear in my head. But then I'm being shot, and then I left my body. Now that was more real to me than ever anything else. If that didn't happen, then I never went to Fulton College. I was never born in Zambia. I never went to UK, and so that was it. That became the story. In Mandela's, there was a lot of schools there, and senior schools. So a lot of the teachers and girls and guys, and great crowd of people, really great crowd of people, and we had a wonderful time, and we really had amazing times. Really, and they all took an interest in me, and they got me reading again, writing again, talking again. I had a private physiotherapist. My folks put parallel bars in the back, so I could walk up and down. I had somebody put me on a horse riding. I had somebody else massaging me. I mean, it really was the most amazing time for me to come to terms. But I was still smoking Zol, Hannah.
From there, you went to Tsanga Lodge. Just tell us a bit about that.
Yeah. So what happens is so Dick Paget comes to the monkeys, and then he says to me, he says, "Baz, why don't you come and this and that?" And I was having such a good jewel at the monkeys, and there was some very wonderful lady friends as well that were there, that we were having a lot of fun with, I was, and I mean, there were 27 rooms there. Honestly, it was the food was amazing. It was really, really a great place. So when Dick came and said, "Baz, come up to Tsanga," I said, Dick, but eventually I said, yeah, why not? And Dick, and I jumped in the front of the Land Rover with Dick, and just hit it off, man. He was such a magic guy, and full of rubbish, full of jokes, full of stories. I mean, he was an amazing character. So I was really at peace. I thought, hey, this is going to be great. Then I met his wife, Anne, and really a fantastic woman. And then of course we did exercises. You know, Dick was very big into exercise. I wanted to walk, you know, properly. And I took my first steps at Tsanga, and you know, it was on the volleyball court, and just one step and another. It took me, I think, an hour, Hannes, to walk from one side of the volleyball court to another. But what a victory! What a victory! And from there, you know, it all came speeding back. You know, when I say speeding back, I mean I never recovered. I still walking with a walking stick to this day, very slowly with somebody else helping me. I've got to think about it. I'm older now, so I use a mobility scooter. So I bomb around it. If I go to malls and stuff like that, I use my scooter.
Basil, tell us about who were some of the other guys, the other casualties at Tsanga Lodge that you remember?
Shorty Schultz was there. He'd also been shot through the head, but he got grazed in the head. A guy two Commando guys, well, he was shot 4 times in the stomach, you know, and so he was wearing a colostomy bag. A guy was there, some big German guy. He had been stung by bees, Hannes, for 7 hours. 7 hours, and he's in the Guinness Book of Records for surviving the most bee stings. And these bee stings, these bees, they started charring him, and he went into water eventually, and every time he got up for air, they hit him again. So
was Dale Collett there?
So I don't know.
Was Dale Collett there when you?
No, Dale came to St. Giles.
He was.
So I knew Dale from. I mean, he's a legend, you know, as a Silver Cross and this and that. But so I met Dale in St. Giles. He was having a bit of toast, and we caught up a bit there on a couple of occasions. A couple of other guys, you know, they're Paris, you know, so they do the wheelchair basketball kind of tour.
Yeah.
You know? And I couldn't because I've only got one limb that works. Yeah, I couldn't wheelchair like they did. So, but you know, I didn't want to be associated as a disabled person, you know, although I know I am disabled, you know, but I wanted to always be normal as I could, disabled as well. So no problem. And I think that only happened when on my second visit to Tsanga Lodge.
Looking back on your experience, what's the sort of moral of the story? What would you say to people who get into trouble like you did about overcoming terrific adversity?
Now I know that this is going to be controversial for many people, but not because for me, like Andreas Kiepers. Now Andreas Kiepers, I've met him. My brother-in-law was also my troop officer, a guy called by the name of Craig Nordie.
Mm-hmm.
And he took me through OSBs. So he came into the Commando after I'd been there for about a year. And he was a TF soldier. And first contact, he got shot through the head, through the leg, through his femur. So he's got a built-up shoe for the rest of his life, 2 inches gone. And he was my troop officer at that time. So he met my sister while he was visiting me at St. John's. And they're still married together. Praise the Lord, man.
But what motivated you? What kept your spirits going?
You know, Hannes, I don't know, you know, because I was, you know, when I got to St. Giles, I thought that there was a mistake because I had no comprehension about the gravity of my
injury,
of my condition. Yeah, because nobody had really sat down and said, look, this is a story. You know, I'm thinking, you know, I'm going to be okay just in a couple of weeks, and then I'm going to be back in the bush fighting the war. And so that's how it was. And then, but I come to St. Giles, and I'm probably one of the worst characters there. There's a guy by the name of Trevor Blythe. You may or may not know him. He had been. There was a time when six Endip was mortared. Trevor had been he had shrapnel in his. He'd been paralyzed from neck down, all four limbs gone. And other guys, one guy blind, and we got involved in that follow up. But anyway, so anyway, this St. Giles to me was a nightmare.
Mm.
It was a nightmare to not be able to go to the toilet by yourself, to not be able to feed yourself, to not everything's done for you, bath yourself. Humiliating. Hannes, I can't tell you that how that broke me as a person, as 22 years old, being so fit and strong and to be reduced to nothing. And you know, a lot of guys came to see me just once, and they wouldn't come back again because it broke them. And they couldn't cope with it. They couldn't cope with that. They would see me like that, and you know, this. I don't blame them, not for one moment. I think my family were there, incredibly supportive. I mean, my mom. I mean, the food in St. Giles. I hope there's nobody there's offended, but it was so ketchup, and I didn't want. I'd lost so much weight, and I didn't want to eat. But my mom would make these incredible meals, and every day she'd bring them from Mandillis and just feed me and speak to me. And you see, because I couldn't talk, Hannes, I couldn't.
Well, you couldn't complain
Because then nobody knew if I was
happy or
mentally there or missing in action. You know, nobody knew where I was or what was going on here. So, but I knew, and my mom knew, obviously. And now in 1977, Reader's Digest, they put an article out called Life After Life, and she's reading it to me. And it's about guys that had been shot or had been in car accidents or operating tables and had left their bodies and had died clinically, who had been paddled on their chest, came back, re-entered their bodies, some in car accidents, some in hospital beds, some on different. And my mom's reading me all the accounts of this magazine, and I said yes. I couldn't vocalize yet, but I said, there was a medic there by the name of Lyle John Myers, and he was on fire for the Lord and for Jesus and speaking about it. And all the guys were talking in the lounge about the accidents and why they're there. One guy stood on an AP mine, you know, different stories. And so guys said to me, Basil, what happened to you? So I just said, I was shot through the head and I died. So now this guy, this medic, hears that and zeroes in on me that night at dinner table. I'm sitting here by myself and I just want to go and just eat my supper, and then I'll go to the bar, take it from there. And he came, sat down across the table from me, and he prayed over his food, which was strange for me. Why would you do that? And then I asked him, I said, why would you pray? I said, why? And then he spoke to me about Jesus and about salvation and he threw me a lifeline. And Hannes, honestly, that the relationship that I have with Jesus now, from 43 years ago up until now, it is something that has absolutely kept me. I will tell you something. That when that man's speaking, because I always said, I had so many questions. I said, oh, what about girls? What about sex? What about alcohol? What about drugs? What about this? What about that? Just open your heart to the Lord and let the Lord come into your life and just put. And then he got up and left. And I went to my bedroom. So somebody wheeled me to my bedroom that night. And here I'm on my bed, Hannes, and I used to carry a 4038 special with me because I was so terrified that somebody would realize that was in the army and would take advantage of me, want to take advantage of me. And it was clear to me I would finish this guy. I would wipe him out one time, and that was it. That's where I was. And so I would just take the weapon off, put it on my pillow, go to bed. That night I took it off and I lay on my bed and I'm just thinking, and I started to cry. And I wept and I wept. And I just said, and I'm remembering everything that this man has spoken to me. And I said, Jesus, if you are real, Lord, if you can save me, save me. I wasn't sure if you could save me. I mean, I've done too much rubbish, and I needed to be forgiven. And I said, Lord, please forgive me, Lord. And I fell asleep on it. For the first time, I slept like a baby since the accident. I woke up in the morning. No, this is it. And knew something miraculous had taken place. Something supernatural. I was not the same person that went to bed that night. I woke, I said, wow. Everything looked, of course it wasn't, but everything looked different. The clouds looked different. The sky, the dam, everything. In my heart, I was at peace. For the first time in my life, I was at peace.